Okay, everybody, we are live. So this is breaking news. The Enderlin, North Dakota tornado has been upgraded to an EF5 rating. This is the first one in over 12 years since May 20th, 2013 in Moore, Oklahoma, and this is tied to be one of the highest rated EF5 tornadoes ever. Once again, this is the first EF5 in over 12 years, and this was upgraded because of excessive train damage, some of the most extreme tornado damage we've ever seen. And it may not look that intense, but when you hear how heavy these train cars were, you will understand why it was upgraded, because this is absolutely insane. But first, I want to let some more people get into the stream. We've currently got 3 people watching, so thank you all for tuning in. I hope you are all doing well. So that is right. This morning, the National Weather Service in Grand Forks, North Dakota, upgraded their survey from a preliminary EF3 to an EF5 rating for the Enderlin, North Dakota tornado. A couple things that I want to note about this tornado. First of all, it was the only EF5 tornado, not F5, just EF5, to occur in June, making it our latest ever into the year EF5. It was on the ground for 19 minutes. I'm not 100% sure if that was our shortest duration EF5 tornado, but I know it was close, if not the one. And I also want to note how these EF5 damage indicators were within the first minutes of the tornado being on the ground. So on the survey, you can see the wind speed says not available, but it has been otherwise noted that it was surveyed at 210 miles per hour. So we're going to let a couple people get into the chat, but once again, you read the title right. This is not clickbait. The Enderlin, North Dakota tornado has been upgraded to EF5 rating. I want to go over the Wikipedia page for the tornado because it's actually got some good information. You can see it tracked for just over 12 miles, and there has been evidence suggesting that there were winds of up to 238 miles per hour in the tornado. The math has been done for that based off what was lifted, how heavy it was. So once again, now we've got 7 people watching. So for those of you just tuning in, the Enderlin, North Dakota tornado has been upgraded to an EF5 rating, the first one since May of 2013. This was very unexpected. I did not expect this today, but it did happen. So I want to go over our damage survey. First of all, huge shout out to Aaron Rigsby. These are some awesome photos that he took, some drone shots. So you can see this is the aerial view of the train that was derailed. This is what got the tornado the EF5 status. And then here's a side view where you can really see how one of those train cars was moved over, I believe, 300 to 400 feet away from the track. You can see the entire train is toppled over, and we've got these 4 cars over here that are not even on the track, and then this one, I'm assuming the very front one, or maybe that's the back, I'm not 100% sure, but that one's just all the way off in the field. Now, originally, this tornado was rated EF3, and that came from these damage indicators up here towards the end of the tornado's path. We had these 4 transmission towers, collapsed metal truss tower, and I believe all of these were rated at EF3 141 for the wind speed. Let's just have a look. Yes, they were. So you can see how they were in a straight line. So that really shows how wide the tornado was. It also had a pretty interesting path. It kind of started moving to the northeast and then just shifted north and then did a loop as its final act before it ended. But I'm going to check the chat. So we've got Henry's channel and Gus Thornton. How are you guys doing? Thank you for tuning in. If you are just tuning in, be sure to like the stream. It helps out a lot. hopefully we're going to be getting into doing more live streams coming up soon. But there really hasn't been much to cover, and I've also been pretty busy. I'm going to see if I can somehow get this survey into Google Earth, because I want to look at some of the ground scouring that we had. So let me just select the time zone. So give me just a moment, everyone. Okay, it doesn't look like it wants to go into Google Earth right now, but that is okay. We're going to let a couple more people tune in, and then we're going to start getting into some of this. But once again, the Enderlin tornado has been upgraded to an EF5 rating. So we've got Jog WX in here. What's up? Welcome in. I've seen some people say that this is overrated. I don't think so. I think it was the right call, especially seeing what it did to those train cars. Did I expect that? Did I expect them to upgrade it to EF5? No, I did not. But now that they have done it, do I think that it was overall a good decision? Yes. So overall, I think this was the right decision. But no matter what I think, if it was the right decision or not, it doesn't matter. That was what the National Weather Service in Grand Forks went with the decision. Do I think that every National Weather Service office would have made that decision to upgrade it to the EF5 rating? No, I do not. I've got a poll going in chat. I think there's a poll. With the base of the EF5 rating, you think they will review previous tornadoes? I think they will as well, but the thing with that is I don't think after coming up on 12 years, 11 and a half years, I don't think they would go back and rate Valonia again. But I don't know. There's always a chance. I think first they should go back to a Rolling Fork. Do I think Diaz deserves the EF5 rating? No, I do not, overall. But for those of you just tuning in, if you are new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the stream. If you would like to help out the channel a ton and just be awesome, there's a PayPal link in the pinned message. Any amount helps out, but it is completely optional. Even just watching helps out, but I do appreciate every single one of you that goes above and beyond. But with that being said, I'm going to continue to read stream chat, so be sure to put your thoughts and opinions in there on this upgrade. But please do be respectful. Give me just a second, everyone. Alrighty, I am back. Sorry about that. Let's see what Caleb said. This is the last thing you expected on a Monday morning. I did not expect the news either. Somebody actually told me. I didn't find out myself. But that is crazy. I actually haven't looked at this EF0 damage indicator. I'm curious what it is. Where'd it go? Okay. 1 or 2 family residences, loss of roof. Okay, so very minor, 80 miles an hour, EF0. So once again, the Enderlin, North Dakota tornado has been upgraded to the EF5 rating, and I do think that was the right decision. I'm gonna say that before what I say next, because I think overall it was the right decision. Did I expect it? No. But I will say it feels weird to see EF5. It feels weird to say the Enderlin EF5. It should be the Enderlin tornado. It doesn't feel right to reference to it as an EF5. Does it deserve that title? Yes, but it just feels off. I don't know, maybe it's because we haven't had a tornado rated EF5 in over a decade. That's probably it. But it just feels a little bit off. So I want to get into a couple more stats about the tornado. It was on the ground from 11:02 p.m. to 11:21 p.m., approximately 19 minutes, and that was in the late evening hours of June 20th, 2025. And this tornado just had an insane mesocyclone. Look at this. This is from a security camera. That is insane. If you would like to view this, just look up Enderlin Tornado Wikipedia and you'll see that. Tragically, this tornado did have 3 fatalities, and that is terrible, especially considering how brief it was on the ground. But once again, definitely, I think, worthy of that EF5 status. You can see initially this damage was rated high in EF3, but further analysis determined that there was forensic damage of lofting empty tanker cars, 72,000 pounds each, which is equal to 32,000 kilograms, and tipping over fully loaded grain hopper cars weighing 286,000 pounds each, which is 129,000 kilograms. I do not know if these were filled with grains. I'm assuming they were, but either way, that is insane that a tornado can do that. That is some of the most extreme tornado damage that we have ever seen. The Diaz denter didn't dent. I'm not going to get into Diaz, but if they are going to start upgrading tornadoes, do I think Diaz should be one that does get upgraded to EF5? No, I do not. And we can get into that some other time, but I don't think it deserves EF5. I think if we could go back to any tornado from this decade, so 2020 and beyond, I think the first thing that comes to my mind that would deserve it is probably Rolling Fork. There's a couple other contenders, obviously. Western Kentucky, and then from last decade, I think Valonia definitely deserves it. That should be that's the number 1 spot, but I don't know if they would go nearly 12 years back. And then Rochelle Fairdale, sure, there's an argument for it. Would I say it 100% deserves it? No. But would I be surprised if it was upgraded to EF5? No. Once again, I don't know if they'd go that far back. So I'm going to read through this tornado summary because I do think it has some very good information. Once again, this is just the Wikipedia for the tornado. It is updated very frequently, especially now that the tornado has been rated EF5. But I'm going to go ahead and read through this. So the tornado initially touched down at 11:02 p.m. Central Daylight Time along 58th Street, southeast of Enderlin. After snapping trees at EF0 intensity at its touchdown point, the tornado intensified and widened as it moved northeastward across County Road 55 through open fields. And one thing I will mention, it intensified extremely fast. If you look at the path, those EF5 damage indicators were pretty much immediate. Just a couple minutes, maybe a mile or 2 into the path. So, where was I? The tornado then impacted ADM Edible Bean Specialties facility at the corner of 136th Avenue Southeast and County Road 136 and EF2 strength, snapping large trees and destroying an outbuilding. So that is these damage indicators right here along 57th Street going southeast. The tornado then began a dramatic rapid intensification and widening phase. As it continued northeastward, it peaked in intensity as it crossed a CPKC rail line southeast of Enderlin, derailing several train cars. Oh my gosh, I cannot read today. Language arts was enough. Derailing several train cars on a stopped freight train, including one car that was thrown several hundred feet south of North Dakota 46. That is this train car you could see out here in the field. I believe it was thrown 400 feet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Initially, this damage was rated high in EF3, but further analysis determined that there was forensic damage of lofting empty tanker cars weighing 72,000 pounds or 32,000 kilograms and tipping over fully loaded grain hopper cars weighing 286,000 pounds each, which is insane. That is some of the most intense tornado damage we've ever seen. That's equal to 129,000 kilograms. This tornado also tossed an empty tanker car 475 feet, yeah, so pretty close. 475 feet, that's close to what I said. Based on this, the rating for this location was upgraded to an EF5, which is the first EF5 tornado rating in 12 years. Continuing north, it blew over a cell tower, damaged crop fields, and snapped large trees, debarking some of them. A farmhouse was also swept away, and nearby outbuildings were destroyed. Crossing the highway, 2 houses were particularly devastated. The first was completely destroyed, having its foundation swept clean of debris, and 2 people were killed. The second house, located approximately 300 yards to the west of the first, was also leveled, and another person was killed there. So that is where the 3 tragic fatalities from the tornado would come. It began to turn northwest, bending over tall steel electrical transmission towers before weakening and dissipating. So that is seen over there when it began to turn north and then northwest. So there were only 2 EF5 damage ratings, and those were both from the train cars, one from the derailed train cars right there, and then the other from the one tossed into the field. And then it was also mentioned that it was some of the most intense tree debarking, and that was worthy of an EF5 rating, but they did not give it to that. I believe this EF4 rating right here, trees debarked with only stubs of largest branches remaining. So that's EF4, 167 miles per hour. So once again, for those of you just tuning in, the EF5 drought has officially been broken. The Enderlin tornado has been upgraded. We also had some other tornadoes within the region. Obviously, everybody's focused on the EF5, and you can't blame them. This is the first one in over 12 years. The longest EF5 drought since the enhanced Fujita scale started on February 1st, 2007. We also had this EF2 tornado just to the east. So if we look at some of the damage from this tornado, I believe this damage indicator has a photo. No, it doesn't. But that was trunk snap. So this was mainly tree damage, and that one was rated EF2. So for those of you just tuning in, if you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the live chat. I've got to pull up our poll on my computer. I wanted to see how it's doing. I believe it is still going. Okay, so let's just switch that. Alright. But if you haven't already, be sure to vote on that poll asking about the Enderlin tornado and its upgrade. Okay, so the options for that poll were, did Enderlin deserve the EF5 rating? And we had yes, no, yes, but there were better options, and yes, it was the most worthy of EF5. We had 11 votes. The majority said yes. So thank you all for voting on that poll. That's a good amount of votes right there. I am thinking about making a video going more in depth with this tornado just because of how crazy this is. I mean, come on, the first EF5 tornado in 12 years. I mean, I don't even remember when the last one happened. This is crazy. But if you are enjoying the stream, please be sure to like it and also subscribe to the channel if you would like. And if you want to go above and beyond, there is a PayPal in the pinned message in chat. That is completely optional but greatly appreciated. Like, seriously, it helps out a ton. But I appreciate all of the support, even you just watching. So this was the deadliest tornado to strike North Dakota since 1978. And it looks like we actually had the Fargo tornado, which was 68 years prior. The Fargo, North Dakota tornado was 68 years prior to the Enderlin EF5. It was the last tornado rated the highest on either the Fujita or the enhanced Fujita scale in the state of North Dakota, and it occurred exactly 68 years before the Enderlin, not Enderlin, EF5. So for those of you just tuning in, the Enderlin, North Dakota tornado has received an EF5 rating, which is a huge upgrade compared to its preliminary mid-range EF3. This tornado occurred on June 20th, 2025. The very late hours, it was on the ground for 19 minutes from 11:02 p.m. to 11:21. I mean, we had trees. Some of these damage indicators for trees, these trees were pretty much being turned to sandpaper, it was described at one point, and that is what would make them worthy of that EF5 rating. Of course, the trees didn't receive it. It was the rail cars, but still nonetheless. I want to try to find some photos of this debarking. Okay, here we go. It's taking its sweet time here to load. It's doing the thing where the image slowly goes down. We're going to give it a second. Okay, so this is the most extreme debarking that there was. This was only EF4. I say only EF4, but that is still crazy. Because obviously that damage indicator was upgraded as well on top of the EF5 one. So you can see some of that sandpapering effect that the National Weather Service is calling it on the damage survey. Okay, there we go. Now you have it loaded. So you can kind of see below the trees and kind of on them how it looks like there's sawdust where some of the branches used to be. So this is going to go down as the first EF5 since 2013. That's the longest drought we've had of EF5s since the enhanced Fujita scale began on February 1st, 2007. I think the longest drought we had, other than this one, for EF5 tornadoes would have been it would have been Parkersburg up until the longest drought for EF5 tornadoes would be Parkersburg up until April 27th, 2011. So about 2 years and 11 months. That was the longest drought prior to this. And that's only 1/6 of this drought, which was 12 and a half years. Well, technically just 12 years, but more like 12 and a half years because it was upgraded in October of this year. I'm going to try to, actually I'm not going to try to, I have it pulled up. I'm going to show you all some of the radar imagery we had during the Enderlin tornado. So we're going to line this up perfectly. So let's get to the path. It's taking its sweet time to load, but I know it's there. June 18th through June 24th, I guess. Okay, so it's loading. I don't know why Damage Assessment Toolkit is being slow. Probably because of how many people are checking this out. So here is the path, just to the southeast of Enderlin near Sheldon. And there were those velocities. None of that is contamination, and that is all supportive of a very violent tornado. Did I think at that point that that was an EF5? No. So, once again, I don't know what else to say, but the Enderlin tornado has been upgraded to an EF5 rating. Here's the radar imagery. At this point, somehow, it was only radar indicated tornado warning. That is insane. I know it was upgraded to PDS at some point. There we go. Okay. So right after those train cars were toppled and the tornado began to move north right in between Enderlin and Sheldon, North Dakota, it was upgraded to an, I almost said EF5, I mean PDS tornado warning. This was a PDS observed. Again, they did not pull the tornado emergency with this storm, with this tornado. Would it have been the right call in the moment, especially seeing what we see now? Yes, it would have, but at that time we did not know. The velocities were certainly indicative of it, but it didn't happen, and there's not really much we can go back and change now. The National Weather Service in Grand Forks did a great job with this, with covering the tornado with their warnings and with the survey. I mean, that was a very long time that they were spending on that survey. They have been working on this pretty much non-stop. I mean, it sounds like a very hard job. They have been doing this for nearly 5 months. Looks like we got a Mr. Storm raid. Thank you so much, bro, and welcome in, everyone. I'm sure you all heard from Vincent, but the Enderlin, North Dakota tornado from June 20th, 2025 has been upgraded to an EF5. This is the first one in over 12 years. I'm still kind of in shock a little bit right now. It feels wrong to say the Enderlin EF5 because it's not like an EF5 that I've known. Do I think it was the right decision? Yes, but I still just can't believe it. I'll give you guys a couple of fun facts about this tornado that I haven't seen anybody else mention, actually. this was the only EF5 tornado to occur in June, the month of June. So it was the latest in the year. It was also 68 years to the day after the Fargo, North Dakota F5. I got that off of Wikipedia, but I did fact check it. Hey Sandra, thanks for tuning in. Mr. Storm, I'll thank some other people we had in here. Henry's channel, Caleb, Jog WX, Gus Thornton. So right now I have the radar imagery pulled up for the tornado. This is just after it was upgraded to PDS. They didn't upgrade it to PDS until it started to shift north. So if we line that up with the path, that is right after it inflicted the EF5 damage onto those train cars. You can see it started to shift north, and then that's where it would hit those homes, do that insane tree debarking. So this is where some of that sawdust effect occurred. You could see where some of those branches would have been. It's really hard to tell with the low quality photo, but there is some what looks to be sawdust, honestly, right there on those trees. I think there's a better image of it if we go further on with the path. But what initially made this tornado an EF3 was the transmission towers up here towards the end of the path. These were rated EF3 at 141 miles an hour. You could see how they were in a straight line. So this really illustrates how wide the path was, and that wasn't even at its max width. Its max width, the path, was just after it toppled those train cars near 56th Street Southeast, and it did grow to over a mile wide. That's the Fargo tornado that I was talking about. But according to the Wikipedia page, it actually doesn't say the width of the tornado, but it was on the ground for 19 minutes. It did tragically have 3 fatalities. I believe 3 fatalities. Here's another fun fact that I just realized. 3 fatalities is the least of any EF5 tornado. So that is good. Obviously, still any loss of life is bad, but the lower the better. As you can see, there are plenty of news articles coming out about this. I mean, this honestly has more news than some of the other EF5 tornadoes we've had in the past, not only because of the rise of the internet. I mean, obviously, the last time we saw one of these was in 2013. Many people still didn't have smartphones, but also because of how long it has been since a tornado was given that EF5 rating. So I'm going to take just a second to look and see if I can find any other information on this. Because I'm sure there's some buried out there. But I think we've gone over most of the surface and some in-depth things about the Enderlin, North Dakota EF5 tornado. Huge shout out to Aaron Rigsby for getting those drone shots of the train cars. Those are some of the craziest, if not the craziest, drone shots of damage I've seen this year. Definitely the craziest damage we've seen this year, and possibly all decade, especially the train car that got launched all the way into the field. I mean, come on, that is insane. Takes a second to load. I'm assuming we have a lot of people on damage assessment toolkit right now. You can see that one train car which was lofted 475 feet into the field. But we currently have 5 people watching and 4 likes, so I'd appreciate it if you could all like the stream. It helps out a ton. Consider subscribing to the channel if you are new. It is completely optional, but it does help out a lot, and I do greatly appreciate it. Trying to see if there's anybody live that we can redirect to. Gonna pass on the generosity from Mr. Storm. Once again, thank you so much. If you're not here from the raid and you are not subscribed to Mr. Storm, be sure to go over to his channel, leave him drop him a sub. I'm sure most of you came from him, but there is the link to Mr. Storm's channel for those of you who are not already subscribed. Okay, there's YouTube Studio. Still got this damage from the train car pulled up for you all, but here is the imagery for the Enderlin tornado. I think at its most intense point, obviously. Let's see if we can go frame by frame here. I don't think we can, but this frame right here, when it was just near that road between Enderlin and Sheldon, I think that's when it was at its peak intensity, and that was also when it inflicted the EF5 damage to those train cars. So I think that lines up very well. You can kind of see why they didn't go with a tornado emergency, because right after it intensified like that, it was still very intense. Excuse me, but it did weaken a lot. Sorry everybody, I've been dealing with a little bit of a cold lately, unfortunately. That's part of the reason there hasn't been much content, but also just because there hasn't been much to cover at all. You know what we're gonna do just for fun? I'm gonna raid Y'allbot, because why not? I know they're not gonna care, but just for fun, I'm gonna do it. Okay, there we go. So once again, I'll go over it one last time. The Enderlin, North Dakota tornado did break the EF5 drought. It sounds crazy to say. After 12 years, over 12 years, and its path length was about 12 miles. Within the first 2 miles of the path was when the EF5 damage ratings were given. The tornado was on the ground for 19 minutes, very late in the evening on June 20th, 2025. This is, I believe, the lowest fatality EF5 tornado, along with the latest end of the year EF5 tornado, and it happened 68 years to the day after the Fargo, North Dakota F5 tornado. So that being said, that is going to be the end of this live stream. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. If you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you all